1-year guys are surface rust. 1-year guys see that it's painted. 5-year guys see that it's rotted. Dermatologists deal with skin rash. Cancer doctors deal with bone, blood, they're internal. That's what a 5-year guy is going to see. This is what a 1-year. You've been getting a bunch of 1-years because before you show up, you should paint my fire escape but not paint it before my inspection. So the 1-year guys who see the nice shiny black, what do they sign off on? And who do they send it to? To you for your eyeballs to look? Who did they send it through? They send it through a back door to go to the building department. Are they here? They send it to the the housing department. Is the building department here? Who's here? People who shed blood. So like they say, a lot of code is written in blood. So, everybody clear on this?
A question about the galvanize. When they galvanize the fire escape, doesn't that prevent someone from having to paint it?
Sure, that's a great question, the galvanized question. So galvanized is a paint, and that's not paint. Galvanized is considered a protectant. So if I have raw steel, I must prime and paint it and maintain it at all times. If I galvanize it like a chain link fence or a fire escape, I can leave it gray, but how long does galvanized last now?
I don't know.
It lasts about 30 to 40 years. And then it withers down to nothing. It's zinc, it's a bath. You dip it in, you pull it out, and then you leave it out for 40 years, just like chain link fence. Anybody seen chain link fence turn brown? Fire escapes turn the same brown. Now, can you take an existing fire escape that's galvanized, still gray, still has some leftover gal? Can I prime it? Yes. Can I paint it? Yes. What have I done to the galvanized that's there? I've actually frozen it in time. Because until it gets weather, sun, and rain and wind, you stop it because now you got a primer coat on top of it. So if a galvanized runs for 30 to 40 years and you prime and paint it after you put it up, it'll give you 75 to 100 years. You gotta keep it painted because every time you scratch it and expose the galvanized, that scratched and exposed galvanized will start deteriorating. But it's got 30 to 40 years. So a galvanized fire escape is made to do that. Now, because of that, let's talk about scissor ladders. Why can't you paint a scissor ladder? Because it gets sticky. All scissor ladders were galvanized dipped because the tolerances are a little bit tighter. So in order for them to move, the galvanized is the protectant. But after 30, 40 years of these, what happens is people say, oh, they paint the whole, can you paint the rest of the fire escape? Yes. Can you paint the ladder? No, you're supposed to take it down, take it apart, re-galvanize it, put it back up. And they don't. So as soon as they put paint on it, she walks up. Never write a scrape and paint violation. You always write inspect, repair if needed, load test your fire escape. That's all you have to write. Because as soon as you write those three, well, you're in violation. I need you to inspect it, then I need you to repair if needed, and I need you to certify it by load test or other evidence. Got it? So inspect it, repair if needed, certified by load test or other evidence of strength. Did that cover the entire code? Because you're going to get a call back from someone who receives this in the mail, and they're going to ask you, the first question is, what do you mean by inspected? The 1-year guys, the owner, you're going to say what under 1104? It's clearly defined in your 1104, design professional, others acceptable to the building official. It said, my hairdresser kind of knows fire escapes and he or she would like to inspect. You say, no. They may let that fly over there at 604, but it's clearly written in the law, design professional, and we have our own form for that. So they've taken care of the inspection question because that's all you wrote for a violation. You never say inspect that one tread, just say inspect the whole system. From the roof to the ground to a public way. Will this identify things that are locked in backyards that have no access? Got it? Everything's covered. We're gonna go over the questionnaire. Alan, the architect, is gonna go over the questionnaire very shortly. So inspect. Now he says repair if needed. What's that mean? Once the architect or the engineer inspects the fire escape and he finds nothing wrong with it, it's a galvanized fire escape, she looks like she's in pretty good order, right? She does have 50, 75-year-old bolts there, right? Inspect if needed. What's that mean? It says it doesn't need any inspection. Great. What's number 3? It says certified by load test or other evidence. What's that mean? It's right in the code. The code says that because it's old bolts, we're gonna load test it. You change the old bolts, do you need to load test it? Then it's other evidence. Well, I wanna keep my old bolts. Then load test it, because who's making the determination to meet the code? You or the architect and the engineer? Right? Says, okay, because I have to certify this and not go to court, and for him to have assurance, not insurance, because he already has insurance, to have assurance, he says, you load test this thing because you're keeping your old bolts that I said are in good order, but they're all 50, 75, 125 years old, or rebolt the entire fire escape system, including verification of the tiebacks into the building. Do I need any load testing? No. So that's the question. So here's a typical fire escape, but once you get underneath, what do you see? You walked up to it, you walked in that yard, you said scrape and paint. For 100 years, building inspectors and firemen have been writing scrape and paint violations when you walk by that fire escape. But as soon as you get underneath, what do you see? So that's why if you say the word inspect, repair if needed, load test, what's gonna happen? Somebody's gonna put their nose under that. You think a 1 year is gonna look underneath? No. But the 5-year, design professional or others, does he carry insurance? Does he carry licenses? Does he carry liability to cover such, even if he misses something? Some of them even may carry what's called errors and omissions insurance in case they miss something. But first, this is one of the pieces that we use when we do the shows. I usually bring Rusty, which is a piece of a fire escape that we saved from a job. Last year we were in Vegas. We taught the first class to the AIA. Their membership is over 26,000 worldwide, I believe. We taught it in Vegas. We taught the first fire escape class ever. So think about 100 years after 1915, there's a class to the architects, not even the engineers. The architects are worried about fire escapes. The next class, by the way, AIA 20 is in LA, if you want to go. And so we saved this fire escape. And what we did with this fire escape, we did everything right and we did everything wrong. We welded it, we fixed it right, we fixed it wrong. So this is like a fire escape where we're showing all the wrong things. We're showing that it was buried in the ground, how the ground eats it. We saved it. We showed improper welding repairs where they used a clip on top instead of the clip underneath. And this is all illegal. We're burning lead paint. Can we burn lead paint with the EPA today? That's been around since 2010. That's a $37,500 fine. So if somebody's gonna fix a fire escape and they bring a welding machine and they bring these rods, you gonna let them? They got a problem with one of the connections and they're gonna they got this much rust. You're gonna let them weld that? The main thing we want to address with that is that you guys now have to sort of have an attack plan from the top down, not from the bottom up. So people are gonna, piggyback whenever possible. So piggyback off of plan, check. It's automatic. They can't deny that. That's just a little piece of the box. It's just, I need a copy. OSHA backs it up. Everything backs it up. You need 2 safe means of egress, and we're gonna cover that. We're gonna take a short break right after this for about 5 minutes, and that way we can then take this all the way to 12, okay? But, so that's one way. Sprinkler systems, look at sprinkler systems to be, you hand me in a sprinkler system, what else do I want? A copy of the fire escape affidavit, before or after. Just one will trigger the other. But a lot of the fire protection companies will you get them on one, they'll start getting the other one. Because they'll help you in the future. When buildings say, hey, I'm due for a sprinkler test, they'll let the owner know what? If I go there, the city wants me to have a certificate in hand first, and that'll trigger, you understand? So sprinkler guys are gonna get up there, you know, for the standpipe test and all this other stuff. You've got, health issues, health department, sometimes before health departments let people back in the building, what can they do? They have to have a checkbox. One of the keys for the health department is you need 2 means of egress to get back in this building. What do you need for the building department to get back in the building after some event? 2 means of egress. What do you need to get back in the building for fire? 2 means of egress. What do you need to repair or maintain a building? 2 means of egress. So it's all there. So if things are starting, and you guys want your own copy, let the 604s go this way, because that's the whole shell. You guys have this fire escape affidavit, and Alan is gonna go over that in a little bit. But here's the 4 codes. Okay, so we're gonna go into this, and the next step we're gonna do is we're gonna give you, we sent you, what you have in your hand is just a draft. Same thing we did for Oakland. There's a 1-year questionnaire that owners and other agents can answer. But there's no structural questions in there. And then there's a 5-year that only structural engineers and architects can answer, not structural pest, unknown guys. And then they must put their stamp on it, or they must be a fire escape agency of some sort of specialty company. And we'll cover the code to show you how do these others come in there? Because there's gonna be some fire protection companies out there that will come into this, and you need to have an other for them, because it's in the code, and I'll show you where the other is, so that they can do that. So it's structural engineers, registered architects, and others. But the other is not non-licensed people, it's people with licenses, okay? But I'm gonna go over the 5-year and the 1-year questionnaire. Alan is a registered architect who's done a lot of fire escape inspections. And but right now I just wanna go very quickly over the remaining codes, so you know what you have available to you first. I mean, it's very quick. And then we're gonna go question by question on what the 1-year guys are gonna be giving to you, all right? That can also be used for so this 1-year questionnaire actually belongs to the 604. Because you guys are not required to do 1 year, correct? So this is a 1-year that you're gonna get that can go to the 604s. But the 5 years you're gonna get, because you have your own paper. This is a sheet we fill out just for the 1104 inspection. The 604 can use it, but they still have to fill out their 604 paperwork. Because the 604 is the shell of the rest of the building. The 1104, which is this sheet, is a standalone fire department paperwork only. Right? So when the sprinkler tests are in play or wherever, you want the 1104 paperwork, not the 604 paperwork, okay? Even though they're both gonna be running together, okay? But you're no longer gonna be using 604 as your main paper, verifying that the outside fire escape, wood or steel, is in good condition, okay? So, International Fire Code, NFPA, the building code, right? Very important that you understand where technical assistance comes. The code is very clear. Design professionals, which is registered architects and registered structural engineers in your city, in your state. What's an other? An other, and it says very clearly here that an opinion report shall be prepared by a qualified engineer, specialist, laboratory, or fire safety specialty organization. So if you have a fire escape company, you're an other. Got it? But it says very clearly at the end that if you don't trust this other, the other can be peer reviewed by who? Structural engineer. So if I come in and I bat my wings and I'm a fire protection company, Tyco from the world, and we have this little fire escape division that we just started, and you guys get this piece of paperwork and they're just getting their feet wet, what can you ask? Just have a structural engineer peer review that. So if a structural engineer takes a fire specialty company's information and stamps it, is it good to go? That's another. It's clearly covered in the code. And that's when things get into specialty, like solar power, windmills. There's some new technologies that are coming out there, and who knows about it? Very few people. You understand? Got it? All right. OSHA code 1910.37. Write this down. Very important. Exits, roofs must be maintained during construction, repairs, or alterations. You're not here to enforce this code, but if you get a contractor come that's giving you a hard time, you know who's gonna care whether or not they've got two means of egress? OSHA, and when OSHA writes a fine, right? So if they're not protecting their workers, but it says you must maintain 2 exit routes or alternative approved. Who approves the alternative? Fire and building. So if they put up scaffolding and it meets your requirement and their requirement, so if it's a dead building, may you agree to construction scaffolding with those steep stairs built inside to grade? You may or may not. It's your call. And the building department, right? What about if the building's half occupied? Will you accept these inclined stairs, or you want 3 feet wide, 7-11 stairs all the way to the grade? So they can mothball a fire escape. You know, when you're setting up your plans, and the fire escape needs 200 grand worth of work, you're gonna stop the job? Or can they put up temporary scaffolding and mothball the fire escape? Block all access to the fire escape, put signs on it so the firemen don't get on the fire escape, and fix it whenever they wanna fix it because they got another approved means of egress that the code allows. What code allows it? OSHA 1910.37, okay?
Can you read that?
Yeah,
I was writing.
1910.37.
Was there another one below that one?
No, that's the same, it's the same code. Alright, so now, what's that mean? You got a beautiful building that's spending $38 million on it. You gonna stop that? You want the mayor to call you? What do you say? I'm not stopping anything. The fire escape, which is on the back of this building, is bad. It's on my plan stamp that says it's supposed to be one of the things, they didn't submit it. I didn't stop them, I said, put up some scaffolding. This thing is only $1,000 a month for the scaffolding. And now, our fire chief went down there, our fire marshal went down there. He's okay that in case there's a fire, my men can get in and get out. The tenants can get in and the contractors can get in and out. We're good to go. Building department says we're good to go. So a bad fire escape doesn't stop a project. And who allows this? Is it fire code or building code or OSHA? OSHA.
AHJ, what's that?
Authority having jurisdiction. Some cities it's the building, some cities it's the fire.
But it's the OSHA code that allows the scaffolding, right?
Right, because it's for the safety of the employees working at it. And you happen to be an employee, believe it or not. So for you to go inspect the building, what must you have at all times? 2 ways out. So every time you walk into a building yourself and there's no 2 ways out, you're not allowed in that building. So are you gonna stop projects? Or are you just gonna scaffold projects as needed? So is the fire escape the last thing you fix or the first thing you fix? If it's the first thing you fix, then you can construct, there's nothing to do. If they wanna play games with you, and they wanna make it last, what do you throw in? OSHA, scaffolding, now you happy? They don't fix that fire escape for a year, do you care? Cause they got 2, and they got a block on the inside, they gotta put board on the windows that go to the fire escape. On the outside, they gotta put signs on the fire escape with a big circle and you guys gotta do pre-plans with your trucks. Saying, hey, when you get to this building, do not use the fire escape. Cause you got on all 3 floors up to 7 stories, what do you got? Who pays for all that signage on the fire escape not to get on the fire escape? The owner. You know what the pre-existing lawfully non-conforming means? This is very important. It means when we look at a fire escape built in 1927, we certify that fire escape as of 1927 with 36-inch high rails, 8-inch bars on the center, 24-inch spacing. You guys understand that? We're not bringing it up to 42, we're not increasing it to 36. So every single fire escape that we inspect as of the date of its installation.
Hi, everybody. So, yeah, as Cisco said, so I'm a licensed architect out of Southern California. I've been working with Cisco for about 4 years. I have my own firm that I'm still working with that actually specializes in all kinds of different architecture designs, but right now I've gotten into egress systems and inspecting fire escapes. I come up here just about every 2 weeks now, inspecting fire escapes throughout Oakland, all throughout the Bay Area, Oakland, San Francisco. San Jose, so, you know, get involved in all kinds of things, working with some egress issues on a building in San Jose where, you know, we're with, you know, kind of talking about the egress systems. We'll come out and do our inspections and then, you know, finalize our inspection, do our walk to grade. There's no way to get the grade. A lot of times buildings are built next to it that, you know, aren't addressed or built over egress. So what we're gonna do today, so what I've done is, I'm also a Reg 4 inspector in LA, and what that means is it's a program that LA has for annual inspections. And they're mostly, as Cisco's mentioned, a little bit less hefty than the 5-year inspection. So what I've done is I put together a draft. This is nothing official, you know, nothing that's gonna really go out, but just putting together for the annual inspection, we put together questions that were based upon what a Reg 4 inspection would be.
But this is gonna take the place of a 908. So listen to the
Right.
questions. So a 908 is, and an owner or other agent can do this 1-year inspection. Listen to the questions and how it really doesn't cross the structural line.
Yeah, I've actually gone through the 908. The 908 is basically for maintenance. It's not certification. It's just, you know, that's why we're saying an owner can do it, and kind of clarify what Cisco said. If you know the 5, as we've been trying to talk LA into having the 5-year inspection, because a Reg 4 can go out there and know that there was a 5-year done, so you can feel confident that more of a structural review has been completed. And, you know, he doesn't have to go there and really worry about structure so much, if he's not really taking on that
It's a
responsibility.
checkup, not as
Yeah.
opposed to having a full body workup by your doctor. Over the next 5 years, you come and see the nurse for a checkup. That's what the 908 should be. He's gonna tell you the questions as we go along.
Yeah, so going in, and again, some of this is LA, they have a process before a Reg 4 goes out, they notify the local fire department, gone out there. So the first thing that they have is fire department dispatch, supervising station, and building occupants have been notified prior to the start of a annual test.
You wanna hold on that one? So even though you don't have it, you may request, but this may go to housing, that you be notified of a pending test in case you wanna monitor it. But again, LA requires it, but you may wanna make that part of your requirement. Right now, that'd be great to know that there's a pending test coming up, because that way you can show up if you wish to double check on whoever's there.
So then we're gonna start to go through the inspection, and actually, I know, getting back to Reg 4, they don't actually call themselves inspectors. It's more, they call themselves testers, but they also, we're trying to work with them to clear up some of this stuff, because they are doing some inspection, but mostly it's testing the components and just getting a good look at the system. So the first question we have is, Firescape has a current 5-year inspection certificate and is ready for testing. Again, you just show up, you have your 5-year, great, I can go ahead and proceed.
Right, and you see a tag on the fire escape.
Right, and so if it's not in place, if they don't have a 5-year, there's no reason for us to do.
Or 1 year.
A 1 year. So then, fire escape appears to have access to the roof for fire personnel per code. So again, working from the roof down, you know, just looking that it's in place.
Are you reading from the sheet here? I don't see those.
The
The
second
second
one,
page, page 2. It's, that's the 5-year, so they're very similar. Here's the 1 year. I'm sorry, so I have both a 5-year and 1 year in there. So I'm on the 1 year right now. Fire escape appears, and we always kind of use the verbiage appears, just looking. Appears to have access to grade and a clear path to the public way per code. So again, we're looking, starting from the top, coming down, looking at the platforms, dropping the ladders, and then making sure that there's egress to grade. Many times, I mean, it's kind of like the last component. Many times we're doing our inspections and there's nowhere to go. Platform is ready
If
for
I-
its intended use.
If I may, on that piece, it's very important, because the 5-year guy does over the roof, all the way down to the ground, releases the line and goes out to a public way. Do you want the 1 years, who are just testing it, they're not inspecting it, they already are relying on that 5-year, he's already done a 5-year. Do you want the 1 years to go up and over the roof? Come down, owner or other agent, right? And they're just looking for appearance, so they're really looking at the surface. Do you want them to come up and over and monitor the whole system all the way to grade, every year? So that there's no damage from trees, there's nothing going on, so is that what you would want for the safety of your firemen?
Yes.
Cause they're not checking every bolt when they're going down, they're like, hey, I used it, so that's why we can't be called inspectors in LA, we have to be called testers. Inspectors inspect, I test what he's inspected. So do you want me to go up to the roof and go up and over? Great, so 908s need to be full, so they gotta start walking up and over the roof. Okay?
Because like you said, the day after we inspect it, it could be hit by a tree, they could put all kinds of debris underneath the fire escape and trash, we don't know that. Only for the 5-year. Fixed stair components, I'm sorry, the platforms appear ready for its intended use with no apparent visual damage, suspect areas, or internal rust. Again, we're just having a good look at it. You know, if anything looks suspicious to a 1-year, you know, call it out, let's get the guy out here. You know,
So,
take a look.
make sure you call him an owner or agent. So nothing looks suspicious to an owner or his agent, not his structural engineer, so that's already been done. So just you gotta really bring it down to who's looking at this. The owner can do this, or his agent. Okay?
Fixed stair components, connections, and clips appear ready for their intended use. No apparent damage, suspect areas, or internal rust. So, again, it's just, you know, they're just taking a look, the owner or his agent. All rails and connections appear to be in good order, ready for their intended use, with no apparent damage, suspect areas or internal rust, and are ready for a 200-pound lateral load test. So the load test, they're not load testing, you know, they're saying,
But can they wiggle it?
sure, yeah, they
Wiggle
can.
a bit? Again, that's a test, that's not a real load test, it's a real machine that loads test 200, but can the owner or his agent wiggle it a little bit? Looks okay. So we've simplified the 908, it has been put in the books mainly in the East Coast, and we find any cast iron, especially if it's part of a system, they become brittle over time. So we have to replace cast iron treads, we have to replace cast iron pulleys with steel, so that you can grease. Because cast iron has a tendency under shock to shatter over time. Everything's 100 years old, guys, so.
Counterweights appear to be in good condition with no apparent distress or internal rust. Self-explanatory, take a look at the weight boxes. Protective chain or barrier on the lowest platform is adjacent to the drop ladder. Drop ladder opening and is secure, single action with no special knowledge to operate, and is 24 to 36 inches above the platform. So we saw in Cisco's video the chain. And it's all, you know, many times people, especially mentioning bringing things up to code, everybody goes, well, that's not a guardrail, but it's an acceptable solution for the fire escape at the time.
How about, we have a big place like, a theater or something, and they have this counterbalance fire escape that's fairly wide, like 6 feet wide, and it has counterbalance so that the stairway drops down. Do they, if they were checking a place like this, would the person checking it actually get on the fire escape and walk to make sure that counterbalance is working, so it hits the ground?
The test.
Yes.
They're testing it.
But again,
They're testing it.
that's not housing.
Alright.
We would.
But even on the 1 year, so
Are they doing that on the 1 year?
the 5 year does the 1 year. Then for 4 more years, they do the 908. Then the 5 year always does the 1 year.
Right.
So we don't need to have it done twice. So in the 5 year, you're doing the 5 year plus a 1 year together, because we have to go up and over the roof, do all that, release it, go down the stairs, go out to a public way. Then for 4 more years, 908 is gonna kick in, but they don't use this questionnaire, they use that other questionnaire that they have. So somebody here has to speak with housing and say, we have a new form for our 5-year, but here, guys, is a new form for you guys for the 908. Now, we're gonna talk about the 5-year right now, that the 604 should use the same form you guys are about to use, because you can see how heavy the questions are now on the. So this is what you see on the outside of a typical through bolt inspection, right? So anybody can see that from the outside, square head bolt, nice and thick, 3/4 thick, 3/4 thick. And you turn it around, this one we just cut off, so it's a good solid bolt, we just cut it just so we can have a show. Look at this one, it's a pencil. You can write with this one, look. That's water infiltration. Look what's left. This is why fire escape balconies collapse. Not because this ever snapped. You can't snap this 3/4 bolt. But you put enough people, or half the people on a deck, you put pressure on it, what happens? Never this. So if there's a fire escape collapse, too many people on it, or this condition existed. Who knows this? People who have seen this all the time. And what's it do? It shows us through rusty tears on the outside that this happened. And even if they paint over it this year, guess what shows up next year? Same thing. By the way, if I wanted to show cables, you guys have one of the most famous bridges here when it comes to cable. But the reason why we flip out cables, all cables are usually 1/4 inch or 3/8 thick, and they're galvanized, and they're replaced every 40, 50 years on average. But if you paint over a fire cable that's rusted, you replace these, you don't paint over these. Okay, so that's what a typical weight box with 1,000 pounds of weight is holding, but look what's inside. So we don't paint these, replace these, you never paint them. A 5-year guy will tell you that. A 1-year guy, will he ever tell you that? Well, because he's a tester, inspector, tester. 1-year guys test the system from the roof to a public way. 5-year guys inspect from the roof to a public way. Every connection, and that's a lot of questions so far, right? Okay.
And we can tell when it's been painted, you know, we can tell when there's rust behind that paint. I did one in Oakland again a couple months ago, and beautifully painted, you know, it passed the paint, but you look at the connections and you can see, you know, the clip is 1/8 of an inch, you know, away from this was a tread, it was 1/8 of an inch away from the stringer, with a 1/4 of it, or, you know, 1/8 of an inch of rust.
Hotels that have those outside balconies with staircases made of wood and or cement infilled steps outside. None of those are ever inspected, ever.
A lot of those concrete treads have the metal pans underneath. The water's always collecting underneath there and always rusting out underneath. We're looking at the railings on the platforms, stairs, and catwalks. A lot of times the steel tube railings that we see, which are mostly curved and go down the stair, those are always suspect because they're always open on the ends and you're always getting water infiltration back into them. So we're gonna find that mostly an issue more than just the exterior rails with the pickets. Fixed ladder to roof, talked about that, the bolts and our welds passed. Then we're gonna look at the ladder to grade, balanced ladders and fixed ladders to grade. Bolts and our welds, weight box, release mechanism, and other components passed. So that gets a good look from us. And we're gonna, it's counterbalance, we're gonna, you know, go out there. A lot of times we'll go, and if it's not a 1/4, you know, when you're out a 1/4 away, if it doesn't move, we know we got a
AC
problem.
unit sticking in a window, can't have those. It can have the AC unit inside the building that has that snorkel that exhausts out the window, yes. An AC unit in the window that grandma can pull out of the window and get away to safety, no. 4-year-old child can pull out an AC unit out of the window to get to pub, no.
Also on the outside.
Can the owner put it on the, you know, cut a hole in the wall and put it up above? Yes. Can he put it in? No. So AC units need to become interior units that exhaust out. Cause you have a lot of buildings with no AC, they still need an AC, but it's just an obstruction, and firemen can't get in. Cause a lot of times when they install these ACs, they screw it in every direction, and then they duct tape it crazy, and then firemen can't kick it in, and the people inside can't push it out, and if they push it out, they push it into a 2-foot fire escape, creating an obstruction.
Well, that's the thing too, they're also creating obstructions, even when they're not pushed out.
Right, so we're gonna make you aware that there's an AC in the window. We're gonna put it all back on you anyway, so.
Does the system have any flammable, storage or flammables of code restricted items or on or underneath? Again, pretty self-explanatory. So we want all these things clear.
Well, if I may on that, that's the barbecue on the fire escape. We're gonna let you know. That's the machines that have gasoline or something in them underneath. We're gonna let you know. Propane tanks underneath. We're gonna talk about sometimes they put they install the new gas lines underneath the fire escape. We're gonna let you know. It's not our issue, we just need to declare to say, you guys make the final decision as to whether they can close that, protect that, or move that. All of a sudden, they hand you a 604 document. Can you hand them one of these? Say, please fill this out too. Because you're gonna get this for the next year, you're gonna be handed 604s, they're gonna yell at you and say, this is all you've needed for 15, 25, 35 years, why you guys, you say, listen, thank you for the 604, give this to your architect or engineer, have them fill out these questions. And they're gonna say, is this a San Francisco or authorized document, blah, 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 which could take you what? A week or a year to get through this rabbit hole? This is an industry standard document, isn't it? It says draft on it, isn't it? You can go to the National Fire Escape Association and it's all the same questions. So can you hand somebody an industry standard documentation that's not approved by the city? It's a questionnaire. It's guidelines. Do you guys have guidelines? Do you guys have guidelines for sprinkler guys? Is there guidelines for, battery, emergency lighting people? Was there ever any guidelines for fire escape people? For 100 years. So now there is one, right? We've given you a draft form. You may have to send it through the chain. You may have to get it through legal, but any of these questions offensive? Did any of these questions put liability back to the city? Or did it put it squarely on the engineer and the architect who was answering every one of these 25 questions truthfully? And in case something happens, fireman is hurt or somebody, a tenant is hurt, who goes to court? The city or the 5-year inspector? The city is a third-party inspector. They're always gonna get called in, but they're relying now on what? A standardized questionnaire. Because will you have good architects and bad architects? What form do they fill out in common? This form. So good architects will fill it out correctly. Bad architects will take the money and run, but then when something happens, who do you take to court? The bad architects. Engineers, good ones and bad ones. So this standardized form, which never existed for 100 years, nowhere does it say to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief. Does it? So if there's an incident, who goes to court? The 5-year guy. Can you take a 1-year guy to court? He's just a tester. The 5-year guy is where you hang it all, all the insurance is on the 5-year guy. So as you get for the next year, these 604s, in lieu of 1104, say, thank you for the 604, have your same guy fill out this questionnaire. What do you need, 3 days, 5 days from the send? As soon as the guy who gave you the 604 reads all the questions, you think he's gonna wanna sign that document? Because I ain't signing this. Say, oh, and I guess this 604 is garbage, here you go, have it back. What do we need? I need an 1104. But you got a 604, yeah, but the guy won't sign our paperwork. He signed your paperwork because everybody's asleep at the switch. And this paper won't say for the tenants or my firemen.